Dalton Schultz, he was on Pat McAfee. Holy crap. It started an entire, well, it's a perfect ESPN radio and television. It's perfect for their fodder.
He kind of ragged on a little bit, kind of ragged on the Dallas Cowboys being different than what I took away from that is I never heard people say that about the Texans.
No.
Like the Texans sound like in less than 1 year, the Texans have gone from the biggest joke in football to this is a really well-oiled. He used the phrase well-oiled machine.
And not only that, when you look at there's the lists out there of Christian Wilkins wants to come here, Josh Jacobs wants to come here, Saquon Barkley wants to come here,
CJ Stroud.
Well,
I mean, that's
because of but all of these players that want to come here. A year ago, we were saying, well, who would want to? We couldn't get. You had the only Christian Kirksey was the only free agent you could sign because nobody wanted to come here. Now all of a sudden, it's the place to be.
Well, but don't.
Do you believe that, or do you believe people know the Texans have money? And they're being used as a negotiating ploy.
Last year, it would have been, even with the Texans having money, nobody would want to come here.
But no one
you can't win. Dalton Schultz signed here. He said, because I'm CJ Stroud and I want to win.
Well, no one would buy it last year.
But
no
that's
one
how
would
quick
believe
it changes, though. The idea that no one will come, I always think that's overblown, that no one's going to want to come here. That stuff goes away quick if you win.
But no. Not that they wouldn't want to come here, but they'll choose places other than this.
Yeah,
if I've got a choice between going to the Eagles last year or the Texans, I was going to go to the Eagles.
But that's why you shouldn't focus too long on people don't want to come here because look how quick it changes. This is a perfect example of we probably shouldn't use that often.
Well, there was about a 3-year span. People didn't want to come here.
But
it wasn't. Look how fast it changed. It's been a long time.
But you got rid of
people wanted to come here.
You got rid of the yucky people. I mean, Cal is harmless.
Yes.
Cal's harmless as long as the right people are long as the right people are in the building.
Hannah Patton leading the way, okay?
Yeah.
As general of this ship now is pretty damn good, okay? But here is Dalton Schultz. Dalton Schultz was on Pat McAfee. And he made some references to the Cowboys and how they did things. And Pat McAfee asked him, well, how do they do things? And here's what Dalton Schultz had to say.
The focus is just football, you know what I mean? And going back and like telling some people like how kind of being around the Cowboys like practice facility and, game day, describing some of the interactions and stuff that you see on a day-to-day basis, like surprised a lot of people. They're like, holy crap, like that actually happens like at a practice facility. And like, it's just, you think it's normal. And then you come to a place like this.
Like what? You don't have to out anything, but like, what are you?
No, dude, it's just like there's people literally going on tours, while you're lifting in the weight room. And they've got like a one-way mirror for people to like look at. Like it's a zoo, dude. There's people tapping on the glass, like trying to get people's attention as they're doing, power cleans or whatnot. And
there's a lot more. Oh, it stopped.
Yeah, no.
There's a lot more.
The whole thing because it's
he
did talk about it as like a zoo there. Well, you're looking at the animals.
But then he said, and then you come here. And boy,
it's football. It's a well-oiled machine.
A well-oiled machine. The strength coaches are awesome. The coaches are awesome. The front office is awesome. It was like, wow, you got it? Okay, here's the rest.
You don't realize like how many, eyeballs and how much that can maybe, distract from, stuff just in the locker room, being in the facility until you go somewhere else and you're like, holy crap, like, dude, there's none of that. Like, this is, also a really well-run organization in Houston. And I think that was one of the things that kind of scared me about, like, leaving Dallas the most is, like, I wasn't sure what another organization would kind of feel like. And, dude, I got here and it was like, this place is a well-oiled machine. Like it's, coaching staff, the coaching changes. I can't speak to the previous stuff, but like the strength staff is phenomenal. The training staff is unbelievable. This has been the most like trainers that I've ever seen on a.
Wow. That's it. But that's an example of how positive he was about the Texans. And strength and conditioning and training is a really big deal with players. It's how you get healthy and stay healthy. It's how you work on your body. It's, the strength coach obviously is a really big deal in college and pro football. So It's just I think it's I think it's a testament to to an extent, Nick Cassero, but Nick Cassero was already in the building for the previous coaches. Let's face it, this is a DeMeco Ryans thing. DeMeco Ryans knew what it's supposed to look like. He's about business, and he hired coaches and has a way of doing things that is professional. Nico's not he doesn't bull crap around. It's not a joke here. And I think this is where, Cal is not a wartime owner. If Cal gets some rats in the building like he had previously, that's terrible, because he's not really able to stand up to him. Hannah did help out and get rid of Jack Easterby, but when he's got the right people in place, Cal and Hannah aren't gonna mess up anything. They're staying out of it. They don't want to be meddling owners.
No.
So that's a really good thing. And Nico and DeMeco has literally implemented the way he thinks things should run. I've talked to people in the building before who said it's not like it's still very businesslike. DeMeco will give you how you doing and all that stuff, but it's not like, it's not a friendship factory in there. It's still business. You got a job to do, and you got to do it. And that kind of speaks to, think about that, John. He was team captain for the Houston Texans early on as a linebacker. He was a guy who came from Alabama. Not when Nick say people make the mistake because you feel like he's a Saban guy, but he wasn't. But he came in here and he had a way of going about things. He was businesslike. He was a team captain. He was positive. He's not a screamer and cusser. That's not who he is. But he worked with Kyle Shanahan, who's very regimented. He had Robert Saleh, who was over, who hired or who was under Robert Saleh, who is would get fired up as a player's type of coach, and that's what DeMeco is. Like you just can't say enough about how DeMeco Ryans has changed culture. The well-oiled machine thing, that comes from DeMeco Ryans.
Yeah.
I think the personnel stuff, Nick has really gotten a grip on really tightening up the personnel stuff. But in terms of how the building is and how it's run, that is a DeMeco Ryans joint right there. That's what that is.
Absolutely. And it's done a 180 in one. Can you imagine talking about this stuff the way we were talking about them last year, about how we wanted Cal to sell? I mean, I don't know how many times
last year in March, what'd you say?
Call for Cal to sell this team. I mean, it was awful. It was the worst. He was one of the worst owners in all of sports.
This organization was one of the biggest laughing stocks. And everybody, last year, all the predictions, the Texans came in every poll. The Texans came defensive backs worst at 29th in the league, wide receiver room 31st in the league, quarterback, all of everything about the Houston Texans was considered the worst in the league, and now we're getting this. So yeah, you're right. 1 year, and you know what? You got to give her credit. Hannah really, according to what we hear behind the scenes, Hannah really has turned a corner, helped turn a corner for this organization. I'm gonna step in for a second, and I want to throw this at you though. Remember the NFLPA player survey that we talked a lot about?
Yeah.
Texas had a good grade this year, right?
Yeah.
Let me read what their grade was last year to put this on perspective, though. However, the Houston Texans. So let's see, treatment of families. The Houston Texans. Let me get the highest. There we go. The Houston Texans, B+ treatment. They finished tied for fifth. Treatment of families, B+. This is not this year. It's the year before. Nutrition, B+. Texans. Weight room, A. Strength staff, Houston Texans, A. Training room, Houston Texans, B. Training staff, Houston Texans, A+. Locker room, this is the Lovey year. Locker room, Houston Texans, their locker room. It's a little older. It still gets a B+. Travel, Houston Texans, A+. That's like the organization, when he says well-oiled machine, maybe behind the scenes it has still been really good. Our perception is not, maybe the day-to-day stuff has actually always been really good. Dalton Schultz just talked about training staff, and he talked about strength staff and all that stuff. And yet the year before, they're still getting B pluses and A's and A pluses. Mm-hmm. So the Texans have been run pretty well. We can say what we want about Cal or whatever and some of the stuff we see, but in terms of the infrastructure, it looked like I think the infrastructure. This is after Lovey's year,
right?
The infrastructure is really good.
That was for players behind the scene, how they always treated the players. That's always been the case though, from when Bob took the team over. It's never.
But strength staff, training room, training staff.
As far as running an organization, though, it was crap. As far as building a football team, it was crap.
But to say it's a well-oiled machine, I think the things that he mentioned being really good, they were really good the year before. Yeah. Like the Texans have.
That's true.
They've always run it pretty well from their infrastructure, but it's it's the things that determine if you can win football games, which is sustainable.
Kind of a big deal.
That's a huge deal. Yeah.